Hi there, thanks for tuning in. If you want to stay up to date with the latest stories and analysis, make sure you follow S News so you don't miss this or any of our future videos. And, it really helps us out if you support us by subscribing, liking and leaving a comment down below. From Southeast Asia to the Middle East, a wave of fast-moving events has rattled the world. Cambodia has been accused of breaking its promises, Iran has admitted to falling into crisis, and Israel is facing a life-or-death decision. The Thai military announced that Cambodia violated a ceasefire by launching multiple attacks in the An Ma and Pho Mache regions. Bangkok warned that the worst-case scenario could unfold at any moment if unilateral actions don't stop. Meanwhile, Myanmar suddenly lifted its state of emergency after 4 years of preparing for elections. But, many in the region fear this is just a cover to gradually legitimize military rule. In the Middle East, the Iranian president formally acknowledged that the country is on the brink of a major crisis due to both internal and external economic pressure. This is seen as a sign that Iran is at its weakest point in many years. At the same time, reports claim that Israel is urgently trying to deploy forces to Papua New Guinea, a region currently influenced by Turkey, in response to increased Turkish military activity. However, Germany abruptly warned that Israel could face diplomatic isolation if it crosses certain boundaries. Israeli analysts dismissed the warning as just European hesitation. Elsewhere, Hezbollah has firmly rejected any proposal to disarm, raising fears that tensions in Lebanon could spiral out of control. Here are the details. The threat of war looms over the border as Cambodia fails to honour the ceasefire. Thailand is warning of possible escalation. On March 31st, border tensions between Thailand and Cambodia escalated further. The Thai military accused Cambodia of violating the ceasefire agreement. According to an official statement from Bangkok, Cambodian forces used mortars and heavy weapons to attack Thai military positions in Sakhet province, despite previous commitments to de-escalate. The Thai military emphasized its full commitment to the ceasefire, stating it had not deployed additional troops and continued to respect the designated safe zone. However, it said Cambodian actions forced them to take necessary steps to defend Thailand's sovereignty and protect its citizens. Thailand didn't stop there. It warned that it may resort to military retaliation if violations continue. This raises the risk of a large-scale armed conflict. On the Cambodian side, Defense Ministry spokesperson Mali Zoita insisted her country remain committed to international law and peace agreements. She said Cambodia wants to maintain peaceful and friendly borders and is ready to cooperate on building a long-term monitoring mechanism. Still, observers say there's a worrying gap between the diplomatic language and what's happening on the ground. Thailand made specific accusations of armed aggression, while Cambodia repeated its general commitments without addressing the details. Amid all this, fears are growing of the worst-case scenario, a border war involving explosives. If fighting spreads, it won't remain a local dispute. It could draw in major powers with strategic interests in Southeast Asia, including China, the United States and ASEAN member states. Myanmar ends nationwide state of emergency after 4 years. Myanmar announced the end of the nationwide state of emergency that was declared following the 2021 military coup. This comes as the country prepares for elections later this year. According to The Guardian, Myanmar officially ended the emergency rule on March 31st and restructured its administrative bodies in preparation for new elections. Immediately afterward, the National Defence and Security Council, or NDSC, formed a new federal government with Mr. Union as Prime Minister and the Peace and Security State Committee led by General Min Aung Hlaing. The NDSC also revoked the decree that had granted full powers to the army chief since the 2021 coup. General Min Aung Hlaing is stepping down as head of the military government, though he remains a central figure in power as interim president. Mr. Min Aung Hlaing, who also serves as head of the new election commission, stated, "We've entered a new phase in our country's history. Due to the current security situation, elections will be held in stages depending on local conditions and governance." While no exact date was announced, officials confirmed general elections will be held in December 2025. Local media reports indicate that Myanmar declared the state of emergency in May 2021 after the military took control of the government. The emergency rule has been extended several times since then, most recently for 6 months. Severe crisis in Iran and rising tensions in the Middle East. Iran's President Masoud Bask issued a warning about the country's unsustainable overuse of water, saying it could, lead to a serious water shortage in the capital Tehran and other regions starting this month. According to Tasnim news agency on March 31st, Iran has long struggled with poor resource management and excessive consumption, causing shortages in electricity, gas and water, especially during peak months. Environmental Protection Agency Director Sina Ansari said if the public doesn't cooperate in reducing consumption, reservoirs could run dry by September or October. He explained that Iran has been suffering from ongoing drought for the past 5 years. Meteorological data shows that rainfall over the past 4 months has dropped by 40% compared to long-term averages. Ansari told state media that neglecting sustainable development has led to environmental problems like water stress, and that overconsumption is now a major challenge for Iran's water management system. According to Adakani, head of the Tehran Regional Water Supply Company, about 70% of Tehran residents use more than 130 litres of water per day. Managing natural resources has always been a difficult issue for Iranian officials, especially since real solutions require action from powerful sectors like agriculture, which alone consumes 80% of the country's total water supply. In response to a government proposal to shorten the work week in summer, possibly giving people Wednesdays or a full week off to conserve resources, official Bazaskin rejected the idea, saying these shutdowns are just a smokescreen and not a real solution to the water crisis. Back in the summer of 2021, similar water shortages sparked protests in southwest Iran. Israel-Turkey tensions rise over naval activity. Tensions between Israel and Turkey may soon escalate into a serious military conflict. Israel is reportedly considering action involving a Turkish-controlled ship, potentially in coordination with Greece. A vessel named Evet is expected to enter a Turkish-controlled area known as PIP. Israeli analyst Saigon wrote about the situation in a published report, noting that the ship itself poses problems for Israel. According to Saigon, Israel currently has no intention or motivation to intervene. However, if a threat emerges from Turkish-controlled territory, which lacks full international recognition, Israel's stance could change. In that case, coordination with Greece may lead to joint military action to seize the northern part of the island, currently under Turkish control. This would only happen if Ankara adopts a more aggressive stance toward Israel in the Middle East. Security analysts believe Israel is capable of preventing Turkish reinforcements from reaching the island and could target air defense systems, intelligence hubs and command centers. The expected outcome would be Turkish forces withdrawing and the island's full sovereignty being restored. One expert even suggested calling such an operation Biden's Wrath. Germany warns Israel of diplomatic isolation over Gaza. German Foreign Minister Tranholm Wad warned that Israel could face diplomatic isolation due to growing global outrage over the humanitarian situation in Gaza. He emphasized that Berlin is working to prevent that from happening. Wad stated that Israel needs friends, partners and supporters in the international community, and that's now at risk. He added that, in his view, Germany bears a special responsibility in preventing Israel's isolation. During his visit, Wad met with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and Foreign Minister Gideon Sa'ar. He's also scheduled to visit the West Bank on July 1st to continue discussions on the Gaza crisis amid mounting international pressure to recognize a Palestinian state. Hezbollah rejects disarmament as Lebanon faces pressure. Hezbollah has firmly rejected calls to disarm, even as Lebanon faces growing United States and Western pressure to do so in exchange for post-war reconstruction aid. In a speech on July 30th, marking the anniversary of an Israeli strike that killed a top Hezbollah commander, the group's leader, Naim Kam, acknowledged that the issue of Hezbollah's weapons remains a major concern. However, he insisted that Lebanon should first focus on stopping Israeli attacks and starting reconstruction projects before any discussion of disarmament. Khan made it clear that Hezbollah would never hand over its weapons to Israel. His comments come as Western powers increase pressure on Lebanon to disarm the group in return for economic assistance amid the country's deep financial crisis. The United States has tied any aid for rebuilding Lebanon and ending Israeli military operations to the complete disarmament of Hezbollah across the country. Lebanon is still suffering from the fallout of last year's war between Hezbollah and Israel, which lasted a full year, as well as a severe economic collapse that began in 2019. United States envoy Tom Barrack has made repeated visits to Lebanon, most recently last week, pushing for Hezbollah's disarmament. He warned that if Lebanon fails to take action, it risks being left behind in a rapidly changing region. Major international donors have also said that future economic aid depends on real reform progress and disarming Hezbollah. In March, the World Bank estimated that Lebanon would need around $11 billion to recover from the conflict. The housing sector alone suffered $4.6 billion in damage, affecting nearly 100,000 homes either partially or completely. Under Western pressure, Lebanon's cabinet is scheduled to meet on May 5th to continue discussions on whether the state should extend its exclusive control over all weapons within its territory. This would mean disarming Hezbollah and all other non-state armed groups, leaving only the national army with legal authority to bear arms. A source close to Prime Minister Noah Salam said the cabinet will focus on establishing the state's monopoly on arms. However, no clear roadmap has been laid out yet. President Joseph Aoun and his government have repeatedly stated their desire to put the military in full control, but they've also warned that if this is not done carefully, it could further destabilize an already fragile country. Finally, thank you for listening and for staying with us through these important updates. Don't forget to follow S News and keep an eye out for future videos.